Rolling.
Ready now? Ili Ili, take 4 from the concept album Manila Men presents Manila Men, an electronic world music project about Filipino migration. Yes, Mele. What's wrong?
You know, every time you do this panelite thing, I always really feel uncomfortable about it.
Why?
You're from Manila.
Mm-hmm.
I am from Manila. And I always feel like when it feels like we're like stealing from a culture which is not even, you know, it's been Mindanao, it's not even our own culture. And you're kind of like stealing it from them.
So you stopped the recording just for that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's if you wanna know. Well, you know my folkloric dance background. I grew up learning dance in a folkloric dance company in the
Yeah, I know
Philippines.
that. I know that. Yeah.
And back then it was something that I was performing while trying to, according to our training, embody the Filipino soul. And I realized it's something that I have to, I brought here because like, I don't have what is this Filipino identity? And it's something that I can somehow express it. It's because something that I learned.
Yeah. But what are you? But isn't it also kind of like this nation project where
Yeah.
I mean it's appropriating things from like these different indigenous communities and we are not part of that community. We are from Manila.
Yeah, but aren't we kind of somehow part of that nation project anyway? Because like we come here in Europe and we have to identify ourselves as Filipino anyways. And I don't know, like there's something so interesting about, for me personally, about learning about all these diverse expressions that I didn't know about, diverse cultures from indigenous communities all over the Philippines. Seeing Filipino is such a complicated concept, and it's somehow nice to learn about this. And it just feels good for me. Like when I dance this pangalay, it just, I don't know, in Filipino it's like, ang sarap. Like, it's delicious. I feel me somehow.
For me, it's kind of exoticism.
Well, exoticism. Look who's talking here. Look who's using Sundanese gamelan in his. Like, isn't that appropriation as well?
In my composition.
Look at you. You're like you're criticizing me from taking from some indigenous communities, some cultures from indigenous communities in the Philippines, but you're taking from other places as well. You're not Indonesian, but you're just freely appropriating it in your music.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm kind of thinking actually more along these lines of like next week we will be in Bern to do this music conference on popular music, and we're part of this Asia as Method panel. And I was thinking more along the lines of like for example like the progeny of this idea, Takeuchi Yoshimi, who thinks that in Asia's Method, rather than borrowing from or being dependent on Western concepts and ideas, that we also look within Asia, within these rich sources in Asia. And this is what I'm doing. I guess in music, I'm trying to avoid. Is there a way that we could avoid Western imperialism of musical vocabulary, and rather I'm trying to look at our neighbors in Indonesia and in Sunda to kind of like think, are there other ways of musical expression? And I'm simply doing this.
Yeah, but what is your problem then? It's all appropriation anyway. If you're saying that is appropriation. I'm appropriating. We're all appropriating.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah.
So, for example, if you want to talk about appropriation, like real appropriation, then I'll have to tell you about cooking.
Yeah, because of course you're a food artist, and you always make these arguments.
Well, yeah, stop this cliche, but I'm a food artist, but yeah, I know my food. Like, I know the history of cooking. And everything is basically appropriation. Look at Japanese curry, like they have this like very delicious Japanese curry. They just took this Indian thing and then they put some soy sauce and now it's theirs. And let's not go far. Filipino food, for example. What is Filipino food? Nothing but just a mix of so many appropriations from Spanish, from Mexico. Like some people don't even know where all these elements are coming from, but I know where they're from. It's a migration of appropriation. It's like a network of appropriation.
So I guess what are you saying that appropriation itself is a creative process, and what should be problematized is the intent.
Exactly. How Why and what scope?
Yeah, because in a sense, like like what kind of political and economic or ideological intent comes with such appropriation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not my appropriation. So, yeah, and if you want to talk about intent, then like in terms of like what intention one has over economic or political intention you have, let's look at the Asian food in Europe. How about the Thai food and the Japanese food that sometimes gets mixed up in the same restaurant as Chinese food and Thai food, and they're all priced at 7 euros. While you have French butter and wine, food made of French butter and wine, and it's double the price.
French is always expensive. It's like this imperialism in.
And it's a given reality?
It is, yeah, it is. And yeah, so if we think about, if we do think about intent, there is that economic, there's the imperialist economic intent for like keeping a certain social capital for the French cuisine, so that they could always mark up these prices, I guess.
And no social capital for Asians.
And yeah, and this is something that is lacking, and this is, I think, this is where this Asia's method comes from. And so when we think about, say, the nation project, although of course it's kind of problematic, but also to a certain extent it is these intents that when you need to unify a group of people who are so diverse, but at the same time has suffered together a particular struggle together in history, if they need to find a common ground so that they could find a community. And
yes,
and this is what I'm also trying to do with my music, to find through these sonicscapes a way that we could find connection, rather than finding the difference from our neighbors, whom we are kind of segregated by our by our colonialists. So like the Dutch are separate from the Spanish, but there is something deeper than that. That connects us all, and that is what I'm trying to find, is what I'm meeting in music.
Yeah, something that unites us beyond and deep from all this appropriation.
I guess, yeah. But hey, we have to finish this because it's
yeah.
It's
well,
very,
I don't know where that argument came from. I was
yeah.
just happy singing here and dancing my pangalay movements.
Let's take it from measure number 105.
Mm-hmm.